IowaColdCases.org is a website featuring countless missing people, many of whom have disappeared under baffling or suspicious circumstances, but few are as mysterious as Jesse and NimajaPol, supposedly an 18-year-old who vanished in 2017. This man's online footprint leads to a surprisingly dark rabbit hole that leaves us with more questions than answers. All we can be fairly sure about is that there is a lot more to Jesse than his missing person listing suggests. Let's investigate. If you enjoy internet mysteries and generally disturbing content, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications for more content like this. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can become a Ko-fi member or a channel member to gain access to uncut videos and other perks, or you can leave me a tip by clicking the thanks under this video. Thanks to anyone who considers this. This video will cover topics that some might find triggering, particularly CP. Viewer discretion is advised. You can click the link in the description to become a Ko-fi member and watch an uncut and ad-free version of this video, which features extra details that were unsuitable for this cut. A subscriber recently sent me a link to a post on the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit from March 2022 titled Strange Missing Person Listing and Internet Rabbit Hole, Jesse and NimajaPol. It's been over 3 years since that post, and the mystery is still not solved. The listing in the post is on IowaColdCases.org, and the information reads: Name, Jesse G. NimajaPol. Nicknames/aliases, Juan Carlos, Simi Nimaja, Daryl Jamal Brown, Reynaldo Alterio Colon, Adexi Now Giovanni Nimajapol, Adexi Nimajapol. Age at report, 18. Weight, 110 to 135 pounds. Height, 5 foot 5 inches. Race/ethnicity, Hispanic/Latino. Hair, black. Eyes, brown. Sex, male. Incident type, involuntary disappearance. Missing from Denison, IA, Crawford County. Investigating agency, Denison Police Department. Last seen alive, July 14, 2017. You might notice a few unusual details in this listing. First, and most concerningly, Jesse's age is said to be 18 years old, but the man in the accompanying photo definitely does not look 18. I'd probably estimate he looks mid-30s, although this photo is a little blurry when you try to zoom in. Secondly, Jesse has an unusual number of aliases, and they're not even remotely similar, apart from the last names in all but 2. It's worth noting that aliases in a missing persons listing may come from a variety of sources and can be misspellings from official sources, which is why it's not uncommon to see, for example, someone named John, whose name is spelled John with the alias Jon listed. But these are not misspellings, most are totally different names. Another detail that is unusual, though may not initially seem significant, is that the incident type is listed as involuntary disappearance. There are next to no details available on Jesse's disappearance, and in such cases, the missing person is typically said to be endangered missing. According to the FBI, endangered missing means, quote, a person of any age who is missing under circumstances indicating that his or her physical safety may be in danger. Whereas involuntary missing means, quote, a person of any age who is missing under circumstances indicating that the disappearance may not have been voluntary, i.e. abduction or kidnapping. So I wonder what information is missing from the listing that led police to believe that Jesse had been abducted. There is some elaboration on the aforementioned details in the description, but it doesn't really clear much up. I'll read it anyway. Quote, The Denison Police Department is asking for the public's help in finding 18-year-old Jesse Giovanni NimajaPol of Denison, who was last seen on July 14, 2017 and reported missing to the Denison Police Department. Complicating matters is the number of aliases the individual has used in previous and/or current relationships, including variations of his first name, along with hyphens and other slight but different spellings of his first and/or middle as well as last name. Nicknames and/or aliases used in the past include, according to the Denison Police Department, NamUs.gov, the Iowa Department of Public Safety Missing Person Information Clearinghouse, and an Iowa Cold Cases reader include Jesse G. NimajaPol, the official name listed with the Denison Police Department, and Iowa Department of Public Safety's Missing Person Information Clearhouse. Jesse Giovanni NimajaPol from NamUs.gov, Juan Carlos Simai Nimaja, NamUs, Daryl Jamal Brown, NamUs, Ronaldo Alterio Colon, NamUs, Adexe Now Giovanni NimajaPol from a third-party website, Adexe NimajaPol from an Iowa Cold Cases reader, see comments below. Despite the aliases, this individual's disappearance is classified as involuntary, meaning a person of any age who is missing under circumstances indicating that the disappearance was not voluntary, i.e. an abduction or kidnapping. Though the MPIC site lists the young man's race as white, NamUs identifies his race/ethnicity as Hispanic/Latino. Jesse/Adexe is described as 5'5", Hispanic Latino, male with brown eyes, black hair, and weighing, depending on the sighting source, anywhere from 110 to 135 pounds. Pictures of the missing person. Some appear to be selfies, along with split-screen images of young males, which could possibly be NimajaPol at an earlier age, and some individual photos of NimajaPol and/or other individuals are listed on a third-party website, and were allegedly posted by NimajaPol in August 2016. Note, Iowa Cold Cases is not including the third-party images on this website, as we have not yet determined whether the minor-age boys in the split-screen photos are NimajaPol at an early age or a separate, unidentified male child. As you can see, there are literally no details on the circumstances of Jesse's disappearance. The listing does say Jesse/Adexe though, which seems to imply the author has reason to believe that the man's real name is one of those, not Juan, Daryl, or Ronaldo. As for the last couple of paragraphs about the selfies with split-screen images of young males, this is where things get really bizarre and concerning. Jesse actually had a number of social media accounts, including YouTube, Twitter, and VK, and there is some questionable content on these accounts, to say the least. He began posting on VK in August 2016, less than a year before he went missing. His profile photo on there shows a photo of him. Although he has sunglasses on and his hair is pushed up, is very clearly him because he's wearing the exact same shirt and chain that he was wearing in the photo on the ICC website. But next to his photo is a photo of a young boy, possibly around 7 years old, I'm guessing. The ICC website suggests that this may be a photo of Jesse when he was younger, but I highly doubt that. The other photos of him on VK further show that he looks much older than 18, and the quality of the photo of the young boy looks too good to have been taken 20 years ago, possibly longer ago, assuming that Jesse is at least in his 30s. There are a couple of other pretty suggestive photos on the page showing Jesse dressed in shorts, sitting with his legs open and pulling the shorts to the side to show part of his crotch area. He also shared a link to a YouTube video with the caption, "Hi my friends, like my new video cover YouTube, thank you." This video has since been deleted, and it might soon be clear why. So there's nothing illegal per se on Jesse's VK account, but it is certainly strange. Why is he posting suggestive photos of himself on an account that has a profile photo with a child? Who even is the child next to him in his profile photo? Could it be a family member? Or perhaps there's a more sinister explanation? Jesse also appears to have a couple of different accounts on Soundcloud, one with the name user 571246770, which was last active 10 years ago, and a slightly more recent one, last active 9 years ago, under the name Pedro NimajaPol. The latter shares the same last name as Jesse, which appears to be a very rare surname, and the former also includes the name Giovanni in the description. But regardless, both accounts feature what appear to be photos of Jesse, and the song titles are almost the same. On the Pedro account, all the songs are named Éxito Kids Jr., which translates to Success Kids Jr., and the songs on the other account are titled Éxito Kids Jr. Insuperable, which translates to Unsurpassed Kids Jr. Success. Similar to the VK account, the user 571246770 SoundCloud account also features photos of young boys. There is one child in the profile photo and what appears to be a slightly older child in many of the song covers. Neither of these children look to be the same boy as in the VK photo, which makes it seem less likely that the boy was a family member of Jesse's. So who are these children, and why is Jesse using photos of them? As for his YouTube channels, there is one with the name Jesse Giovanni NimajaPol, which posted a number of videos showing him singing and dancing. There are a few other videos that give off a much stranger vibe though. One is a collection of photos of Jesse mixed in with photos of various young boys, with on-screen captions such as "Love is thoughtfulness," "Love is priceless," and "Love is a total sacrifice." The profile photo for this account also happens to be a young boy, maybe around 8 to 10 years old, sitting on a chair and dressed only in underwear. So at this point, I'm just going to come out and say it. What we've seen already from Jesse's social media accounts seems to suggest that he may be a paedophile. Why else would he be not only using so many photos of young children, but making videos about love with photos of them and himself? And it gets worse. On another channel with the name Poxito Chingon, there is another video that features literal nude photos of Jesse, mixed in with, you guessed it, photos of underage boys. These nude photos are overlaid on opaque images of picturesque scenes such as a road with palm trees, and that's presumably how they've managed to stay up all this time without being taken down, but you can very clearly make out Jesse's body parts in them. I'm starting to think that these videos are some kind of adverts for CP. They are far too suggestive to be anything else. A Reddit user on the Unresolved Mysteries post also suggested that these videos might be adverts for CP, and another user replied with the following: "Would explain why many of the kids in the video were shirtless. I was thinking possibly the weird cropped shirtless ones are actually cropped nudes. Once I noticed that, I noticed quite a few of the clothed ones are also really weirdly cropped. Like cropped in a weird place or angle, possibly CP that has the actual acts cropped out. Reminded me of teasers you get on adult pics or OnlyFans until you pay." This isn't the only evidence of Jesse being a predator. Another video on the same channel again showed photos of both Jesse and an underage boy, with an on-screen caption that translates to, "Jesse Nimaja and Abel Efibo are united forever and have a relationship." According to a comment on that ICC website, there was another SoundCloud account under the name Junior Giovanni Paul that had actual photos of CP on it. Thankfully, that account has been taken down. Another thing that's interesting and kinda baffling about the video featuring nude photos of Jesse alongside children is the upload date. Remember that Jesse has been missing since July 2017, almost 8 years at this point. Well, the last video was uploaded in April 2020, 5 years ago. In fact, it appears that Jesse has created a number of different accounts since he supposedly disappeared, with the most recently confirmed account being a YouTube channel in March 2021, nearly 4 years after he was reported missing. There is plenty of online activity from him shortly after he apparently disappeared, right up until 2021. So what on earth is going on here? Was Jesse ever even missing in the first place? Bear in mind that the ICC website, as well as NamUs and a couple of other reputable sources, still have missing person listings for him to this day. The Iowa Department of Public Safety also had a listing for him that has since been deleted, but looking at archives on the Wayback Machine, it wasn't deleted until 2023 at the earliest, which is long after his last confirmed online activity. These are official, regularly updated websites, 2 of which are government websites, so it really doesn't make any sense that they still had, or still have, Jesse listed as a missing person who involuntarily disappeared, when at this point it seems likely that he was never actually missing in the first place. Now you might be wondering if these accounts are actually run by Jesse. As I already said, they contain photos that are clearly of him, but could it be possible that someone else is posing as him? Well, aside from the fact that there is no obvious reason why anyone else would want to pose as him online, especially going to the effort of creating at least 18 different accounts, many of these accounts that were updated after his supposed disappearance contain photos that I wasn't able to find anywhere else online before 2017. Anyway, the twists in the tale don't end here. In June 2020, one of the commenters on the ICC listing shared an article they'd found about a 38-year-old man, also with the surname NimajaPol, who had been arrested in Texas in 2018 after being accused of uploading images of CP on Instagram. And guess what? The photo of Pedro, the accused, looks an awful lot like Jesse. In September 2018, more charges were added after more inappropriate content was found in Pedro's possession. According to Statesman.com, a Round Rock man faces additional charges after Williamson County Sheriff's detectives found more than 600 pictures of CP on his electronic devices, an arrest affidavit said. Pedro NimajaPol, 38, was charged Thursday with 4 counts of possession or promotion of CP, a third-degree felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison. He was charged in early June with 1 count of possession or promotion of CP. A detective started investigating in March after getting a tip from Instagram about a video that was posted of nude boys ages 6 to 10, the affidavit said. It said investigators traced the video to an apartment at 1800 Plateau Vista Boulevard in Round Rock. They obtained a search warrant and went to the apartment on June 12 when they found NimajaPol, who told them he had made the video on Instagram, the affidavit said. It said detectives on Wednesday found more than 600 images of CP on NimajaPol's electronic devices, including one involving 2 girls and a boy. NimajaPol was being held in the Williamson County Jail Monday with bail set at $200,000 for the 4 new charges. So now we're left with the question, are Jesse and Pedro the same person? Pedro is not one of Jesse's aliases listed on the ICC or NamUs. However, NimajaPol appears to be a very rare surname, so it seems likely that if this man is not Jesse, he is at the very least related to him, possibly his brother. A few people on the Reddit post were wondering if Pedro was Jesse's father, however I highly doubt this. According to the articles, Pedro was 38 years old when he was arrested. If Jesse really was 18 at the time of his disappearance, the ages could line up. But as I said earlier, there's no way in hell that Jesse was 18 in those photos. Mid to late 30s is a lot more plausible. Pedro could still be Jesse's brother though. It is worth noting that the missing person listing states that Jesse's height is 5'5" and he is 18, whereas Pedro's S-offender register profile states that he is 5'8" and was 38 at the time of Jesse's disappearance. If Pedro is not Jesse, I guess it's not beyond the realm of possibility that it was actually Pedro who's behind the social media accounts under Jesse's name, which explains why Pedro got arrested and Jesse didn't. If that was the case, perhaps Jesse really did go missing in 2017 and has never been found. Personally, on the balance of probability, I do believe Jesse and Pedro are the same person though. Jesse was active on social media and also posting inappropriate content long before his supposed disappearance in 2017. Remember that one of his Soundcloud accounts actually contained the name Pedro, as it was called Giovanni Pedro. Comparing the photo of Jesse from the ICC missing person listing with the photos of Pedro after his arrest, there are a number of similarities. The hairline, the nose shape, the face shape in general, and in particular there are some quite distinctive lines going from the inner corner of the eye to the outer cheek that appear to match in photos of both Jesse and Pedro. So what was going on with the missing person listings? One thing I wondered is if Jesse never was missing, but rather he was wanted by the police. Perhaps the police made these listings so they could catch him. As far as I'm aware, that's not standard practice though. I've never actually seen another case like this where the person was wanted for criminal activity but instead was listed as missing due to an involuntary disappearance. If he'd been on the run at the time, surely that'd be a voluntary disappearance. I also wasn't able to find any wanted posters or anything that were publicised by any law enforcement, so I highly doubt this explains it. It is possible that Jesse suspected police might come for him soon, so he decided to flee to a different state, but without telling his friends or family, and one of those actually reported him missing. Part of me doubts that he would openly tell those close to him that the police might have discovered that he's a paedophile, so perhaps he just vanished without saying anything, causing them to worry. Then again, he was hardly hiding his paedophile activity online. Many of his accounts had his uncommon surname and featured countless photos of him. It wouldn't be hard for his friends or family to stumble across these unless he actually has a totally different real name, but that could be a whole new can of worms. Assuming he is the same person that got arrested for CP, one might assume that his real name is Pedro NimajaPol, not Jesse, but there has been some speculation of him using fake IDs and even stealing identities. For example, one of his aliases, Daryl Jamal Brown, was the name of a real person who died at 24 years old in Texas in 2016. Pedro was arrested in Texas, and I'm assuming he spent some time there before he was arrested, so I guess it's maybe plausible. Regardless, something is off with all these names. Given the inappropriate content on the social media accounts, one might assume that he wouldn't use his real name, Jesse, online, and instead use one of his aliases, but Jesse is the name used in the missing person listings, meaning that that is either a name that is on an official record for him, or it's the name given by whoever reported him missing, and therefore the name he used in his personal life. But when he was arrested for CP, this was under the name Pedro. Surely he must have had some kind of ID that was shown to the police proving his name was Pedro. He kind of just told them that's his name and they believed him without verifying it. This makes me wonder if Jesse is actually a fake or even stolen identity. This would explain why the age in the listings was 18 when Jesse was clearly much older. To avoid confusion at this point, I'm going to refer to the Jesse this whole video is about as Pedro. Assuming NimajaPol is his real last name, perhaps Jesse is one of Pedro's family members, possibly a dead family member, which would explain how he was able to use the identity without the real Jesse intervening. I've actually heard of similar things happening before, though in different areas of the world. I once met a Kurdish person who was born in Turkey, and they told me that years ago it wasn't unheard of for children to die, and when a new child of the same gender was born, rather than registering the birth and getting new documents, etc., the parents would just reuse the dead child's ID. As a result, there are some Kurdish people whose passports have the wrong date of birth, and some don't even know for sure exactly when their birthday is, particularly if their parents died when they were younger. I don't know exactly how common this was, but I'm sure it's not unheard of in other countries too. This is just the anecdote I heard. Anyway, I wonder if something somewhat similar happened in Pedro's family. Maybe when Pedro was born, he had his own ID with the name Pedro, and sometime later his brother Jesse died, and so he began also using Jesse's ID. It would actually make more sense though if Jesse was Pedro's younger brother, who actually was or would have been 18 years old in 2017, and that's why the missing person listing states that age. Bear in mind that it seems that Pedro was originally from Central America. I don't exactly know how stolen identities work, but I would imagine you'd be less likely to get caught if the person had died in another country, especially if the death had never been officially recorded, which is a possibility. Now we could keep speculating on who the real Jesse is and why Pedro was using this name, but I just keep coming back to the question of how all this has been missed by NamUs and the other official sources that reported on this disappearance. I actually decided to contact NamUs and IowaColdCases.org, summarising the information I've discussed in this video with the relevant links and asking for clarification. Here's a quote from my email. I assume this information has been brought to your attention, so I was wondering why the missing person listing is still up. Is this an oversight, or did you determine that Jesse and Pedro are two different people, and that Jesse is still missing to this day? I also wondered if you had any more information on Jesse's initial disappearance. Judging by his social media activity, it appears that he was never missing in the first place. I did wonder if he was wanted by the police at the time, given the subsequent arrest, but surely that would have been made clear and it wouldn't be listed as an involuntary disappearance. Can you confirm whether or not Jesse is still missing? I've seen recent posts on Facebook and elsewhere about this. People are still sharing his case under the impression that he was never found. If that's not the case, I hope the listing will be removed so people can spend their time spreading awareness of active cases. I contacted both sites over 2 weeks ago at the time of writing this part of the script, and I haven't heard anything back from Iowa Cold Cases, though Jesse's missing person listing is still up on the site. NamUs did reply to me pretty quickly though with the following email. Thank you very much for this information. Any alterations to the record, edits, additions, or removal must be approved by the investigative agency. NamUs staff will forward this information to the agency for their review and will apply their response to the NamUs record if deemed appropriate. NamUs is a national information clearinghouse and resource centre for missing, unidentified, and unclaimed person cases across the United States. The program does not investigate deaths of individuals, however can assist law enforcement, medical examiners, or coroners with establishing the identity of a decedent or a missing person. Unfortunately, we cannot comment on any case details or specifics that are not viewable to the public in NamUs. As of the 7th of May 2025, the NamUs page for Jesse is still up and has not changed. I guess it takes time for them to pass on information to the agency and to reach a conclusion, but given that the Reddit post was made over 3 years ago, I highly doubt I'm the first person to contact them with this info, which makes me wonder if there is a valid reason for the listings not being removed. I just have no idea at this point what that might be. After spending a week or so going around in circles on all the information I've covered in this video, I did find a lead that has led to a potential breakthrough. I made contact with someone who looked into this case a while back and contacted the Denison Police Department about it. For their privacy, I won't be revealing any details about them, however they did give me permission to share the following information. This person came across Jesse's missing person case themselves and ended up falling down the rabbit hole of his various aliases and online activities. They contacted the Denison Police Department only to find that police were unaware of all these different social media accounts. However, they did provide some information on Jesse's initial disappearance. The day before Jesse went missing in 2017, police actually brought him in for questioning on suspicion of distributing CP, but they had to release him because they didn't have enough evidence or probable cause to hold him in jail. Then right after he was released, he just vanished, leaving behind his phone, wallet, keys and other belongings, leading police to believe he may have been murdered. But this wasn't the case. As we now know, Jesse had actually fled to Texas under a different alias, Pedro, where he was later arrested and actually charged with distribution of CP. This resulted in him being deported as a non-citizen committing a felony, and he's now thought to be living in Central America. So while it's not clear why Jesse's missing person report is still up on NamUs and elsewhere, at least we know why he was reported missing in the first place and what happened to him after, which was always the most intriguing part of the mystery. One thing that was still a mystery to me though is why he seemingly vanished from the internet in 2021. He clearly wasn't deterred by the CP charges and resulting deportation from the US, hence he continued posting inappropriate content after, but I wasn't able to find anything since 2021. Given his past habits of adopting a new alias when the last one gets caught out, it's possible he did the same again and is now posting under a totally different name with new photos. If not, I assumed he died or went to prison in Central America. The person I was in contact with believed they found breadcrumbs of him online more recently though, and they were fairly confident it was him, which means he's still out there and just got better at covering his tracks. I do wonder why he suddenly went more covert at that time, but that's a question we probably won't find the answer to. I think this is as close to the mystery being solved as we're going to get. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments, plus any topics you'd like me to cover in the future. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Huge thank you to my Ko-fi members and channel members whose names are on screen now. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in a new video.